This week on the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show, Ryan Day freaks out over Lou Holtz being a Notre Dame fan.
The West Division is falling apart again. Will the Big Ten Championship be just another high profile trap game?
Plus, recaps for Week 4, picks for Week 5. Thanks for watching. Stay with us.
Wait, Mac, I almost forgot. Before we get started, can we just give Ohio State a lot of respect?
That is the absolute worst take that anyone has ever had, and I demand that you apologize to my brain for having to comprehend how stupid that was.
You don't know ball. It's clear you don't know ball. Honestly, when you were born, I turned to your mother and I said, I love him, but this kid's going to need therapy. And what you just said confirms all of it.
I understand that back in your day, they hadn't invented the forward pass yet, but it's the 21st century. You need to be able to throw the ball downfield.
No one's ever gotten a lacerated liver from running a halfback smash, but as long as you're admitting to prejudice against vital organs, fine. Welcome to Big Ten Team Rivalry. If you're looking for a channel to make football fun again with some friendly rivalry on the side, this is the channel for you. Thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks to everyone for subscribing. Mac, how did we do on our Week 4 picks?
All right, well, our Week 4 picks. So just as a reminder, I've got the scoring rules over here to the right. You can read them while we're going through this, or maybe pause. That'll help that you can understand what's going on while we're talking about this. So we had another close week. We both did pretty well, all things considered. A couple of calls were not so great, but our best call by far was Louisiana Tech versus Nebraska. I think both of us gave Nebraska's defense a little bit more love than we did Louisiana Tech's offense, like some hate. So I think that's where we were at with that. And then Nebraska's offense didn't do as well as I think we were thinking. At some point, maybe they were going to get a field goal. I don't know. But actually, oh my gosh, actually, you were dead on. So I take back all of that. You were almost dead on here. Goodness gracious, nice job.
Yeah, that was a close one.
That was a close one. But anyway, so that was our best call. Our worst call, we had two different worst calls. So thankfully, your worst call much worse than my worst call. So that helped me win the week. But in any case, we had
all I asked was for Iowa's defense to score something. Is it too much to ask for Iowa's defense to put points on the board?
And what did they not do? They did nothing. Wow, you even called them to win. So you got a whole lot of nothing from Iowa. Literally nothing. It was a historically bad performance on offense for the Hawkeyes, and yet some people are like, this proves Penn State is legit. Well, let's pump the brakes there, guys. You also, I don't know if you were hating on Penn State's offense or just, maybe loving Iowa's defense a little bit too much there. I'm not sure what was going on with this, but
I figured Iowa's defense could slow Penn State down a little bit. I think they did slow them down a little bit, but
yeah,
they were concentrating so hard on doing their job they forgot to score points.
But when your offense never has the ball, it's really hard to continue to stop the opposing offense because neither are you scoring points nor are you. How many defenses can hold up against an opposing offense for that long? My worst call was Indiana-Akron, and I think this kind of just proves what I was thinking before this game, was that Indiana is not very good, but I kind of thought maybe they would be better than this. And because I don't think Akron is good, I think Indiana is just really bad this year. So this was by far my worst call, although the Iowa-Penn State game did get me a little bit. All in all, though, I think our biggest surprise was about the same. We both had Minnesota and Northwestern as the biggest surprise. I think the biggest part of that surprise was that Northwestern not only scored way more than we thought they would, they actually won the game. You got 10 seconds. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just did not expect Northwestern to win. Didn't expect Minnesota to give up a 21-point lead. That was baffling.
Yeah, not only was it baffling, but Minnesota gave up that lead twice. So double baffling. But those are the picks for Week 4. Let's go ahead and dive into these games a little bit more.
You know what separates the winners from the losers, kid? The score.
All right, first game that we're diving into is Rutgers at number 2 Michigan. Both these teams coming into the game undefeated. A lot of interesting storylines coming out of this game. What with Michigan and the way they've been playing recently, with their especially their head-scratching performance that they had against BGSU the week prior. What were you thinking watching this game?
Well, I think the story coming out of this game has to be Michigan's defense. From what I was looking at, Rutgers has averaged 31, 32 points per game, and Michigan held them to 7. So that's a pretty dramatic decrease. And again, I know a lot of Michigan fans are kind of worried about Michigan's performance in this game, especially with Rutgers coming out of the gate in the first minute and scoring a touchdown. But then remember, for another 59 minutes, they couldn't do anything and they didn't score anything. And I think that is the biggest story coming out of this game from my perspective.
So I'm thinking from my perspective, it's probably going to be J.J. McCarthy's performance. So McCarthy threw a career high in interceptions last week against Bowling Green. Colston Loveland has been pretty absent, especially during preseason games, and then Donovan Edwards has been fairly quiet. I think these concerns have largely been resolved after this Rutgers game. So I understand that everyone wants to say, like, oh, it's Rutgers. Rutgers is terrible. And, you know, they scored once on a freak blown coverage play and then never again. You know, it's not necessarily that they didn't come close. It was that they had situations that involved fourth down conversion attempts. It was fourth and short on a couple of occasions, and Michigan not only stopped them every time, but also intercepted the one and returned it for a touchdown. So yeah, like you're saying, Michigan's defense was definitely a huge part of this game. But I really like the way that the offense came back and the way that J.J. McCarthy played in this game. I think it was one of the most balanced games that Michigan has probably had in quite some time. Because if you remember, what was it? Passing yards, I think JJ had like 240, and then they also had 212 yards rushing, something like that. So
yeah, they ended up with 1,400. Or, I'm sorry, 1,400.
1,400. Wow.
415 yards of offense.
415 yards of offense. I believe Rutgers had something in the neighborhood of about 250. So yeah, and most of those yards came on almost literally the first play of the game. But then you think about it, Rutgers had the 24-point game against Northwestern, and that was their worst game up until this point. And in my opinion, they really pulled up against Northwestern too. Like it kind of seemed like they were pulling up. Northwestern really couldn't do anything against Rutgers at all, and Rutgers was moving the ball as much as they wanted to, but then I believe started playing a lot of second and third stringers in that game. So I think Rutgers is a much better team than what a lot of people are saying that they are. And I think that's kind of disrespectful to the way that Rutgers has been playing. And I also just don't understand how beating an undefeated team doesn't mean nearly as much as it used to, just because the name of the team happens to be one that we've associated with mediocrity for so long.
Right. Well, I think you're right. I mean, they came into this game 3-0. They're leaving 3-1. Michigan had 0 turnovers this time, so that was a nice improvement. But going back to the fourth and short, what boggled my mind is you're at the beginning of the second quarter. It's 7-7, and that very first play, Rutgers is 4-1, and Greg Schiano decides to go for it. And I'm thinking either he was already shook or he was trying to make a statement and failed ridiculously. Either way, that either showed that Michigan's defense had him scared to death, or had him scared to death after that play for the rest of the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, and so all right, which particular one are you talking about?
That was the 4th and 1 right at the beginning of the second quarter.
Right at the beginning of the second quarter. Okay. Yeah. So 4th and 2, we've got fourth. All right. So Rutgers gets all the way into Michigan territory. So they've got the touchdown, and then they only make it to the 19, and then their next possession they get into Michigan territory and they miss the field goal, and then they have to punt, and then they have the end of the half, and then really couldn't, and then the interception for the touchdown. So yeah, I understand after that wanting to go for it, because it feels like maybe you're moving the ball, but Michigan just comes up at those pivotal moments and gets the stop when they need to. And then
Mhm.
also Rutgers, even kicking, didn't have much of a shot at putting points on the board. So I feel like he was trying to get whatever he possibly could.
Yeah.
The timer is out. Any last thoughts?
No, other than they said this was going to be a dogfight, and to some extent it was. But ultimately, Michigan came away with the win. They're just churning right along as they get their fourth win.
Brutal, but no one's died in years. Someone will vanish occasionally.
So our game of the week this week was number 6 Ohio State at number 9 Notre Dame. Mac, these teams were about as evenly matched as they could be. So how did Ohio State win this game? Did they have an edge somewhere, or does it really come down to that 10-man defense that Notre Dame decided to play at the end of the game?
So I'm not going to say that the 10 men on the field for the final two plays of the game were what decided the game, because that would be fairly disrespectful to the way Ohio State played that last drive, which was a very good drive. I mean, Kyle McCord did an extremely good job on that drive. It absolutely did not help, because the down lineman that Notre Dame were missing on that final play was the one that would have gotten the stop. I mean, even if Notre Dame had gotten the penalty to run the player out on the field for that last play, it would have put them about a half yard closer, if that. And they still, it still would have been really close as to whether or not Ohio State's running back, I think you pronounce his name Chip Trainum, I believe it is. It still would have been pretty close as to whether or not he got into the end zone. So no, I'm not going to say that decided the game, but it absolutely did not help. So what I will say though is that I don't think either offense was really prepared for this game. I think that Ohio State got the one 60 plus yard touchdown run. I think was actually it was Travion Henderson with the 61-yard touchdown run. That was huge. That really helped Ohio State sort of establish a double digit lead at that point, which then Notre Dame's got to come into comeback mode. And they did a good job of getting there, but Ohio State, they ended up leaving too much time on the clock, and this ends up becoming sort of a chess match and timing of possession and stuff like that. But one thing I really noticed is that both offenses had multiple drives where they got into the opposing team's got deep into opposing team territory and couldn't finish the drive. So I've got in my notes here. Let me see where it is. Yeah, Ohio State had 3 drives in which they made it inside the Notre Dame 15-yard line, and the grand total of points they came away with on all 3 of those drives was 3. They scored 3 points total from 3 drives that made it all the way to within the Notre Dame 15. Notre Dame got inside, I believe, Ohio State's red zone a couple of times and came out with, I believe, the 1 touchdown. I can't remember exactly, and I've got my notes in here somewhere. But anyway, the point being that offensively, I don't think either of these teams were really prepared, and Ohio State kind of had the luck of the draw, and then Kyle McCord had the drive of his life to end that game.
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic, especially that stop. Notre Dame got a stop right on a 10-yard line. And that was just before the drive after that is when Ohio State scores and wins. It was a bizarre game to watch, a good game, lots of good play going on. Before we get into the Ryan Day freakout issue, did you have anything else you wanted to say about the game itself?
I think Notre Dame lost the game. I think Notre Dame found a lot of. I think Notre Dame found a way to blow it. That's my final word.
So this whole Ryan Day freak out at the end where he's calling out Lou Holtz, it was bizarre to me at first, and I think at some point you got to look at what Lou Holtz said as a kind of trash talk. I don't know why Ryan Day seems to want approval from Lou Holtz, but a lot has been said already, and I'm sure people have seen a bunch of this, but I just don't think that what Ryan Day said is how winning teams act. If your team is tough and you win the game, and Ohio State has an impeccable record, impeccable coaches, impeccable players, and probably one of the winningest football. I think they are actually the winningest Big Ten team right now, as far as Ryan Day is probably the winningest coach in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't not with Kirk Ferentz record notwithstanding, but that spans 25 years.
Win percentage. He's got like the
100%.
best win percentage. Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems a bit desperate for him to act this way. And I grant you, I really appreciate that when what he was doing was to defend his team and defend his players, and he talks about them like family. That's great stuff. I love that. But man, learn to take an insult and just brush it off. They talk about, Ohio State needs to get, they want respect, and they're not getting the respect they deserve and all of that. And it's like, you guys are acting like a bunch of crybabies. If you're winners, just act like winners. You don't have to get the approval of everybody else.
Welcome! We are here to destroy you!
All right, last game that we're diving into is number 24 Iowa at number 9 Penn State. I don't even know what to say. How do you even intro this game? What are your thoughts? What nonsense do you have over there?
So I hate to be, that fan, but all I could say is I think Kirk Ferentz really does need to retire at the end of this season. We've talked about that before. I mean, you're 3-0 coming into this game. You're ranked 24th in the nation. You walk into Penn State, and it's like your team didn't even show up. And I'm not going to blame the players for that. The players are ready to go. They want to play football. I'm going to blame the coaches for not getting them motivated to understand what was going to happen in a night game whiteout at Penn State, Happy Valley Stadium over there. Looking at the stats, I mean, Iowa only had the ball for a quarter of the game, and not even a full quarter, 14 minutes and 33 seconds. They had 4 first downs. They were 1-9 in third down efficiency. Their total yards, 76. A Big Ten team had 76 yards in a football game. That's I think Kirk Ferentz has had a wonderful, amazing career. It's time to let it go, buddy. It's time to cash in that IRA and buy a boat.
Buy up some mystery novels, sit on a beach, ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
I wonder if Iowa would fire Kirk Ferentz before the season is over. Like, if things really got that bad. So he's like,
I don't know. I mean, he's an icon. You can't fire him.
Right. He's kind of like their Joe Paterno, at Penn State. So I guess I don't know that they would fire him as much as they'd like ask him to resign at season's end. So if they do it in the middle of the season, that's bad optics. That's probably going to be bad for the school. Yada yada yada. But I honestly, I would think that they'd probably ask him to resign at the end of the season.
All that has to happen is the AD has to walk into his office and say, "Hey, Kirk, I have an opportunity where you could be the AD. You wouldn't have to coach anymore. You could just be the AD over all of the teams."
For all of the teams. You can stress defense everywhere. I think it's interesting to me that people are using this game as sort of a springboard for Penn State. Because, I guess I kind of understand why they scheduled Iowa for their whiteout now, because this is a huge launching pad for Penn State, because they're like, oh man, we shut out a ranked team with a great defense. And it's like, Iowa's defense isn't even what they used to be. Iowa's offense is non-existent, and they had 3 of their best players injured. So, honestly, I get it. Like, shutting out anybody is a difficult thing to do. Shutting out Iowa, I honestly think is actually probably not that hard, because a lot of really bad teams have almost done it. South Dakota State almost did it last season. Yeah. So, I don't know if this is the flex that Penn State thinks it is.
Yeah, but, I mean, you don't want to take anything away from Penn State. I mean, they played a good game. They shut them down. They did their job. So those goose eggs look really nice on the stat sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But like you're saying, I think it just like Ohio State with Notre Dame, I think Penn State needs to, cool the jets for a minute and say, okay, it was good win, but don't think the season's over
No, I don't think the
or the
season's
season
over.
is set. I guess I
Right,
should say.
yeah, or like their place in the Big Ten pecking order is set, because I honestly think Iowa's probably going to lose a lot more throughout the season.
A good reporter doesn't get great stories, Jimmy.
A good reporter
Makes them great.
So our big story this week is the West up for grabs, and is the Big Ten championship game just going to be a high-profile trap game? Mac, given that the West Division is falling apart, but Northwestern just had a big win against Minnesota, and given they're only one game out from Wisconsin, can Northwestern parlay the success into winning the West Division?
So I don't want to take the fact that we didn't expect Northwestern to win a game this year, and now they've won two, and one of them happens to be a 21-point comeback upset of Minnesota, and turn that into, holy crap, yeah, now they're going to win the West and go to the Big Ten championship with an interim head coach and yada yada yada. I don't want to get way too excited, especially because their next game is Penn State. Even if that's at home, I don't really like their chances in it. So, no. I think Wisconsin's got to be the favorite at this point, which I think that's what I called at the beginning of the season, if I'm not mistaken. So they do have that one loss against Washington State, but Washington State is ranked and looking really good right now. And I think Northwestern probably just made Wisconsin's job a bit easier by upsetting Minnesota. And frankly, if Northwestern keeps up with the spirited play, maybe they'll knock someone else off too. I'm thinking maybe an Iowa probably. But in terms of this being a battle between Wisconsin and Northwestern, my money would be on Wisconsin at this point.
But it would be so much fun if Northwestern came back and actually won the West Division this year.
That would be an incredible comeback story for the ages. Wow.
Absolutely. Coming up next, our preview picks for Week 5.
Fun begins.
All right, and now we have the coin flip section of the show. So we flip the coin to determine who is going to get the home or away bonus. So whoever's covering the home teams or covering the away teams, if the team wins, they get the bonus. And we flip a coin to determine who gets that. So, what is your call?
Tails.
He's calling tails, and it is... It's heads! Oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. Man. Holy crap, we totally didn't script this and have to wait for the correct side to come up at all. Man, whew, jeez, it's heads, so I win. How crazy is that? I am going to choose... I'm going to cover home teams. I'm going to cover home teams for the week, and I will get my picks in, and we will cover those shortly.
What's your prediction for the fight, then?
Pain.
Alrighty, now we are diving into the picks for Week 5. So our first game this week is Penn State, number 6 Penn State, undefeated Penn State even, at Northwestern. Dad, you are on the clock.
All right, I'm thinking this is a big game for Northwestern. After putting down the Gophers, I'm guessing they're looking for some bigger prey. They're hungry for that bigger win, and this could be it if they can take down Penn State. I said, nevertheless. Why did I say I said? Nevertheless, Penn State outclasses Northwestern in every facet of the game, which is disappointing. If they blanked Iowa, if Penn State blanked Iowa, they'll blank Northwestern. However, because it's a trap game for Penn State, and because Northwestern is feeling pretty good right now, I don't think Penn State will score much more than they did against Iowa. I think Northwestern's going to put up a really good fight. Nevertheless, I think it's going to end up 38-14 Penn State.
Penn State with 13 seconds to spare, so nice job. There you go.
Nice. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Set. Go.
So Penn State, they have Northwestern this week and then UMass next week. So not exactly a gauntlet, but they do have Ohio State after that, which is kind of a game that determines who has the best shot at dethroning Michigan for the Big Ten title. So yeah, this could potentially be a trap game. And if Northwestern gets some quick scores and Penn State is caught napping, then maybe Northwestern makes this a game. I don't think it'll happen, but if it were to happen, it's because Northwestern pulls out literally all of the stops against Penn State's offense and runs basically nothing but options and trick plays on offense themselves. They can't win a gritty, sort of grinded out game, but maybe they can freak out Penn State with some quick and confusing play calls. Still, I think it's pretty clear that Penn State is the stronger team, so I've got Penn State winning 41-10. Sorry, Wildcats.
Ooh, 8 seconds left. Nice job.
Sweet. For our second game, we have number 2 Michigan, undefeated number 2 Michigan, because that still means something, Michigan fans, going on the road and hitting up the Huskers of the Corn of Nebraska. They husk corn. That's kind of what I was going for there. You have 60 seconds. You are on the clock when you're ready, starting now.
Okay, so if I put the best construction on it, Michigan is practicing slow and steady wins the race. No need to get crazy or fancy. When what you're doing stops the other offense cold and gives you a 3-score buffer to win, just keep doing what you're doing. This will be their first road game, though, but a lot of guys are coming off the injured list, from what I understand. And frankly, if Michigan keeps doing what they're doing, they'll win this game. The trap here is Nebraska would love to trip Michigan up. And if they smell blood in the water, I'm sure they'll give it all they've got to take Michigan down. And by smelling blood in the water, I mean if they can get a couple of explosive plays, I love that word explosive, if they can score consistently, they can get Michigan scared. On the other hand, though, Michigan outclasses Nebraska in every phase of the game, but that's why they call it a trap game. With any luck, Michigan got scared straight against Rutgers, even though they plowed through that game. We'll see the engine is warmed up and humming right along, and I've got Michigan winning 29-11.
29-11. Interesting score.
It is an interesting score. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure 11 is possible, but I'm going with it.
Yeah, it is. 3 field goals and a safety.
Oh, there you go.
Which would be extremely bad for Michigan, but okay.
All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Set, go.
Michigan is rolling, despite what a lot of people, Michigan fans, are thinking right now. They played an incredibly balanced game against Rutgers and only allowed the 1 score. They didn't really have any big games to look forward to, so every game at this point is an opportunity to get better and better against a very weak Nebraska team, especially this week. I think they'll do just that. It's an opportunity to defend against what is yet another dual-threat quarterback, whether that's going to be Jeff Sims or Henrik Harburg. Try saying that 5 times fast. Interestingly, Nebraska is only allowing 46 rush yards a game. Normally, I would think that would be a really good thing, except I think it's mostly because Minnesota, La Tech, and Northern Illinois aren't very good on offense at all, and then Colorado, I don't think, really believes in running the ball. Which is also why I think Nebraska is giving up 250 yards passing a game. Offensively, I think the game is going to be on Harburg's shoulders with their top running back out for the season, and I think Michigan will play the same game they've been playing because they don't need to play any other way right now. Give me Michigan 35-7.
Nice.
Excellent.
35-7, I like that.
It's a good score, isn't it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
You think football is still fun?
Yes.
Sir.
Yes.
All right, and last but not least, we have our speed round. This is where we quickly give you our picks without explanation for the remaining games. One note, Ohio State and Wisconsin are both on bye weeks. Lame, but you're not going to hear any picks for them. In my personal opinion, I think the bye week has an advantage over Ohio State. Anyway, first up, we have Louisiana versus Minnesota, but we've also got 2 minutes on the clock starting right now. Louisiana versus Minnesota, I've got Minnesota 34-14.
Ooh, not too far off from me. I've got Minnesota 30, Louisiana 18.
Excellent. All right. Next up, we've got Indiana versus Maryland. Maryland really good on offense, I think, and Indiana not very good on defense, so I'm going to take the Terps 35-10.
Again, pretty close. I think Maryland is going to keep shining. I've got Maryland at 32, Indiana 18.
Okay. Next up, we've got Illinois versus Purdue. Really didn't know how this game was going to go, but Purdue's at home, so I'm going to give the Boilermakers the edge, 17-14.
Ooh, I'm calling this one really, really tight. I've got Purdue 27, Illinois 26.
Wow. All right. Interesting stuff. Next up, we have Wagner versus Rutgers. Rutgers, I think, is a lot better team than Michigan fans, especially one in particular, wants to give them credit for. So I'm going to give Rutgers the win, 45-10.
Oh, I'm going all out on this one because Rutgers destroyed Wagner last year, and I couldn't find the line on this game, so I just went ahead with the last year's score. Rutgers 66-7.
Hey, all right. That's awesome. And the game that is going to have offensive coordinators everywhere pulling their hair out and screaming in horrible misery. Michigan State versus Iowa. Neither offense is really got a pulse right now, but I think Iowa is probably got a little bit more of a pulse as a team than Michigan State does right now, and just because of the fact that they're at home, I'm going to take the Hawkeyes 21-14.
Ooh. All right, very close again. I'm going with Iowa, 24-12 over Michigan State.
And that'll do it for this week. Thank you to everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, maybe even hit the notification bell. But more importantly, have a great weekend watching football and have fun watching football. # make football fun again. Dad, take us out.
This is Big Ten Team Rivalry.
Yeah, it is.
When you're doing what works, what stops an offense, when you're doing what can stop a defense cold. Nope, when you're doing what can stop an offense cold, I have notes right here. I can read them. It gives you a 3-score buffer to win when you can stop a defense, when you can stop an offense.
Well, I was stuck on the 2 minutes and 30 seconds over here to the left. That's what the thing says, so I go by the thing. Yeah.
Okay. Don't go by the thing.
Okay, I'm not going by the thing.